Good morning, everyone. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming here today. I equally want to make sure that you are very comfortable in your space where we are. We're going to be celebrating a few individuals that have stood the test of time and has graduated as new advocates, certified advocates in human rights in crisis. And I just want to say, I am so happy and so tickled that they are here. Most of them are very familiar, and the majority are coming from the Embassy of Trinidad and Tobago and the CARICOM. So they are going to be so blessed and needed in that area. So I want to thank Ambassador Andrew Ramjohn for sending them over, for allowing the due diligence of the goodness, and for all of the graduates that are graduating today, congratulations. And I want to welcome you all to the faculty, staff, and the team members of the Federation of International Gender and Human Rights, embassy ambassadors, consul generals, high commissioners, diplomats, dignitaries, honored guests and family, and supporters of local attendees. I want to welcome you here to one of the commencement exercises that we offer many times a year at the Federation of International Gender and Human Rights. My name is Dr. Amina Ali, and I want to welcome you today to celebrate with us the commencement exercises that we have. We have a few in fellowship today that will offer and be of great discipline to the goodness of what it is that we are going to be offering. But of course, as first things first, Archbishop, can you unmute your mic and offer us our opening prayer, please?
Father, thy name be glorified. We are God that giveth the privilege and opportunity for us to be alive amongst the living. And we have gathered here today because thou hast permitted it. It is you that give it the concept, ideas, and insight of all that we do. For all the occasion and event today, take preeminence. Guide us, and may thy name be glorified. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate that. Today, we are going to be talking to a few dignitaries. One you have just heard, Archbishop Ogobu. And we are going to also be talking to the students. And the way this works today is we are going to be announcing their names when the graduates speak. And we're going to allow them to speak for up to 1 minute, just thanking everyone, saying a few words, and allowing their voice to be heard as a graduate. Then we are going to also hear from the keynote and diplomatic speakers, respectively. They will be giving their words of wisdom, a few takeaways, and a few gems to impart with us today in human rights and gender rights advocacy. For those family members that are joining, a few housekeeping rules. We're going to ask that everyone keep their devices on mute throughout the ceremony until you are called on or until it is time for you to speak. If you have to leave and you are a dignitary or a graduate, please put it in the chat that you are leaving so we'll know and we'll be able to announce it to the rest of the audience. If there is an emergency that happens with you or you are unable to get on due to connectivity, or maybe your mic or your camera's not working, we will go ahead and move to the next person and then come back to you, just so you know. Likewise, if there is any connection or communication problems that arise as you are speaking, we'll give you time and we will then adjust the schedule accordingly. So without further ado, I'd like to begin the program now. The Federation of International Gender and Human Rights is a community-based organization, a registered nonprofit here in the United States, and a sovereign entity, CSO, that is in the main mission of advancing gender and human rights. We work with the communities to empower those closest to the problem because we know that they are the ones closest to the solution. So we advocate, we educate, and we empower those right where they are to see the community in the goodness of what it is that they are to give and what message that they are to empower within their community. Some of the ways that we do this is through common terms that we call patterns. Patterns are different ways that you do a thing and we express it through the way that it is most useful. And in these patterns, we have our positions, we have privilege, and we have our posture. Our position is to approach it in a way that is self-serving. This is in the adage of give someone a fish and then teach them how to fish. And we have noticed that our position in that is allowing others to be able to be self-sufficient through our example. In our power, we have the ability, which as it's directed, is the ability or the direct influence of the behaviors of others. So in our power, we understand that we are those that are working the progress. We are not perfect. We know what to do. We have evidence-based and we have clear-cut humanistic approaches, but we also understand that every voice has that power. Through our privilege is because we are international. We offer international services so that the Federation of International Gender and Human Rights can cross bridges that are not just domestic, but offer a foreign approach in its stability of solutions. And in our posture, we stand affirm that we will offer in the continuation of our mission, the greater aspects of humanitarian effort, expertise, the connections, and the network in gender and human rights to offer the most up-to-date, technologically advanced, and the most current advances in gender and human rights and the advocacy therein. We have a contract with society, as we will, to offer education. And we do that through the Institute of Social Impact Strategies. That institute has been formulated and recently accredited through the resources in both an international and a domestic education source. We are here in New York, but we are also accredited internationally through Dubai and UAE. We offer these courses internationally and they are abridged, accredited, and offered in solitude for their service. This is why we're able to certify so many people from so many different countries, because we do have that international accreditation. The Institute of Social Impact Strategies, as you'll see on our website, FIGHR.org, is an institute that offers many programs. We have the one that is graduating today, Human Rights in Crisis. We have sexual and gender-based violence. We have peer mental health. And we have our newest one, which is our International Interfaith Professional Chaplaincy Program for Gender and Human Rights. We are the only organization that offers that chaplaincy, and we're the only one that has offered it internationally, where we're certified through the program and we're able to be international chaplains around the world. I am so proud of our team to be able to say that. We are the only organization on the planet, as one of our ambassadors say, that is able to offer an international interfaith professional chaplaincy program, adding faith to the combine of what service we offer to our community. So congratulations to those of you that are going through the course now and those that will be taking it in the future. We are going to be introduced by two very renowned, very imparted speakers. Our first speaker is our diplomatic speaker. And I'm going to read a bit about who he is and what he does, and to know that the energy of what it is that comes from him is so well known that you can't help but know him in some circle or another. Archbishop Dr. Chidenberry Ogbu is a certified and ordained archbishop. He reigns from Nigeria. And in 2008, while in South Africa, he continued studying law in the University of South Africa, which he continued through 2010 and much of his engagements. We understand him to be the president and the CEO of one of the most favored organizations that I am currently a part of. That is the African Diaspora Union. This is a great organization that has ordained a few understandings of what it is that we are doing in the combines of human and gender rights. It is a diaspora organization that is assigned and attained to be the greater influence of those internationally and domestically that reign from the diaspora. He is a human rights and crisis counselor and reigns with an extensive history and backing in human rights. His speech today will couple the topic of understanding human rights crisis through the installment of what you are needing to do as a new fellow in this field. I introduce to you our diplomatic speaker for the day, Archbishop Ogobu. Archbishop, if you can.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Well, thank you for the privilege and opportunity given to present this paper on human rights in crisis. Let me take the opportunity to greet all the excellencies and all the graduates, I'm going to speak to. Now, clearly, I need you to understand that I am speaking from South Africa, Nigerian-born, South African citizen. So clearly, I am an African with African accent. So, so you need to have that in your mind, the clarity, so that you will be able to understand me. Speaking about human rights in crisis and the wisdom on making the greatest impact in human rights work seems to be a network of roads and railways, a complicated network of roads and railways at the same time. As an African, religious priest, human rights educator, and a Pan-African activist, I believe that building respect for human rights and the rule of law we have ensure the dignity to which every individual is entitled, and we help them stem tyranny, extremism, and violence. The world is moving toward a universal legal culture of world law, as represented by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Therefore, evolution is moving in the direction of the realization of human rights, equality among women and men, and toward people-centered economic growth. Human rights empower the individual and the community by placing their rights at the center of socio-economic processes. As our belief, we work so that the principles of human rights, accountability, popular participation, empowerment, and non-discrimination are put into practice. Coming from Africa, I do not know what is expected of me, because all my life I have lived as a victim of circumstance. I was born in Nigeria, grew and nurtured in Nigeria, where I experienced civil war, religious and tribal intolerance, killings and near genocide between the Christians and Muslims who were brainwashed by their political masters that anyone who do not believe in their faith is an infidel and will go to hell or deserves to be killed. Of course, thousands has been killed in that process. Their houses burned down and some of the people burnt alive and bodies mutilated, with most of those whom we entrust our families into their hands to bring salvation to them become human rights abusers and ritual killers in the name of religion, filled with discrimination, full of hate speech, practicing abuse of privacy and inequality right in the church places. It becomes a situation when the protector becomes a predator. They never bothered to ask themselves, Why are the Muslims and Christians in America, Canada, United Kingdom, Europe, Australia, South Africa, etc., don't kill themselves? Rather, they dine and wine together. Who were those that brought those religions to them? And why are those people not killing themselves and burning their houses in their countries? What are the sources of those religions? Or how did those religions originate? Or of what purpose was that religion formed? I left Nigeria to live in South Africa after over 20 years now. Tired of the inconsistencies and intricacies with facing dangers of life in Nigeria, only to become another victim of Afrophobia and xenophobic attacks by my fellow Africans. Since 2008, over 100 people have lost their lives, either burnt alive or murdered in cold blood, with their houses and shops and businesses looted and indiscriminately arrested and thrown into detention or bundled back home in the name of deportation as illegal migrants. Who then can ensure the implementation of human rights, equity, and good justice that will usher in peace in our societies? For there can never be peace in our society unless the rights of the people are preserved through equitable justice. The crisis of human rights did not originate in the early days of the Euro-Christian Church Catholic theologians who defined Africans as the cursed seed of Ham. When the church fathers thought that it was God's will that Africans be casted into eternal damnation and disrepute, and that they were commissioned by God to carry out the retribution and judgment for the irredeemable sins Africans were guilty of committing. These misconceptions were then of white supremacist ideology, culture, and psyche. The justifications which distinguish the institution of slavery introduced by 15th century Europeans of modern times and nations of the ancient world were that slavery was justified by the facts that the enslaved persons were factors of being an inferior race of people. Black people in particular, and people of color in general, and that the slave system was justifiable by religious interpretations of the Bible and biological scientific facts. Those were the dark and primitive days when there were no human rights. Human rights, which are rights inherent to all human beings, regardless of race, sex, nationality, ethnicity, language, religion, or any other status called inalienable rights of the citizens, was adopted and proclaimed by the United Nations General Assembly Resolution 217A 111 in bracket of December 10, 1948, tagged the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, to prevent the acts of killing of tens of millions of people which they experienced in the Second World War of 1945 from happening again. The crisis of human rights began when those victorious nations of the Second World War reached a resolution and put together what they claimed to be the inalienable rights of the citizens without the force of law. When the human rights have no force of law, how can it be realized? I have observed the United Nations Declaration of 1948 and its honest implementation since the declaration, the struggles of the Africans in diaspora, and the struggles of the third world countries, and ask myself what the core mission of the United Nations is, not what they wrote in their mission statement and objectives. Because the discrimination in the globe, the hate, the abuse of rights, the invasion of privacy, colonialism, modern day slavery, etc., all negate the concept of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. When I was in primary school over 45 years ago, we were taught by our teachers that we have 6 continents of the world, which comprises Asia, Australia, Africa, Europe, North and South America. And all political and economic dealings depend on the continent where you come from. Until now, I am yet in my little understanding to know in which continent that the Caribbean, the Middle East, the Oceanic, etc. falls in, or why are they not assigned to any continent at all? More human rights crises originated from the human rights articles itself. Yes, because there is no force of law in the resolutions called human rights articles, which they made. Those 30 basic human rights seem to be a joke. For example, in the declaration of Article number 1, which states, "We are all born free and equal." That is a lie of the century. How do you explain to an African in a godforsaken remote African country that he is born free and equal with an American or Canadian or British, etc.? With his practical knowledge in the first place that he or she is not free? Or how do you explain the declaration in Article number 6, which claims you have rights no matter where you go, yet you are classified in the United Kingdom as illegal and deported to Rwanda, which is not your country, as a refugee? The human rights crisis caused by the basic 30 human rights, not backed by the force of law, brings us human to be an endangered species. 4, to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but also to live in a way that represents and enhances the freedom of others. Firstly, we need to accept there are challenges. Then we think of how to bring solution to the challenges. The challenges of a generation will never be greater than the ideas and solutions within the people born into that generation. Otherwise, God has planned to fail, and God never fails. Human rights crises may have diminished, discriminated, and maligned us in many ways, but we have the right to take responsibility. The Human Rights Article number 29 says we have a duty to others, to other people, and we should protect their rights and freedoms. Our destiny is bound to that of our fellow humans. We believe in harmony with nature, hence cannot be passive, for passivity harms the cause of human rights. Human rights is neither a publicity campaign nor a political tool. The key is responsibility. This week, Pope Francis, in his first public event in Canada, displayed the Human Rights Article 29 of responsibility by confessing, condemning, and apologizing to the Canadian Indigenous people on the practice of cultural genocide through residential schools, enforcing the Indigenous children to the Catholic schools in Canada, and had earlier encouraged the setting up of Truth and Reconciliation Committee. This act sets precedence to peace resolution. The fact of resolution lies much deeper than definition, motion, and statement. Perhaps the problem of peace not fully realized and not felt in global sense is due to the fact that we took peace resolution literally and not practically. Many think and believe that understanding is agreeing. Understanding is not agreeing. This may involve negotiation, which is a specialized skill used by diplomats, business people, and union leaders to achieve peace or resolution practically, which has no precondition in peace resolution. It is not a literary thing that you write down, sign, frame, and hang on a wall and look at them. It is not just enough to have a debate or hours of discussion. Write a minute of the session, putting it in an A4 or A3 paper and nicely printed and signed, framed, and hanging it on a wall or taking group photos, with it to show that we have achieved some sort of peace, because it is just a piece of paper with no practical value, and there is absolutely no guarantee that people will, in practical sense of it, will respect and follow that writing on the paper through. For true peace and prosperous nations to exist, there must be human rights education to religious leaders, parliamentarians, and the custodians of the people's culture and tradition. Then, and only then, we will start experiencing love, prosperity, advancement, and respect for individuals, corporate, and religious rights of the people, which is basically an instrument of salvation and liberty. We are in desperate need of new ideas, new approaches, and new ways of bringing solutions to human rights crisis. We need to think creatively about the future and about the new patterns of socio-political organization. We need to leave behind at-one modes of thinking and to act to achieve a world that is cooperative and thoughtful about the future. We know that transformations are not always smooth, for change involves the disruption of old patterns of behavior. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Archbishop. I really appreciate that, Your Excellency. A lot of points I was sitting and writing down, so you'll be hearing from me, from my office, especially in the future, because there's certain things that I'd like to bring forward in this delegation, especially in human rights crisis, and dealing with those that are new to this. I'd like for them to be able to have some points to refer back to. So thank you so very much. I appreciate your insight, and I thank you for your time today. If you'd like to stay with us, I'd welcome you to stay for the rest of the ceremony, but if you have to leave because of your schedule, thank you again. We've given you a gift. We sent you a digital gift from our office that should be there momentarily. So thank you again. You're welcome to stay, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Our next is our keynote speaker that has been a intricate part of the Federation of International Gender and Human Rights. He is someone that is also the ambassador, mission ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago and the CARICOM. And it is my pleasure to introduce to you Ambassador Andrew Ramjohn. Ambassador Ramjohn has been with a collaborative with FIRE for the objectives of peace, goodwill, humanitarian efforts, and other areas of the 17 SDGs. His Excellency has a vast knowledge and the expertise of finance and funding, due diligence and compliance in conflict resolution, public relations, human resources, and of course, sexual and gender-based violence. His Excellency is a strategic thinker, experienced in coordinating the implementation of vision and establishing crucial relationships with individuals, corporations, and institutions on the local business level and on the international floor. It is an esteemed pleasure that I introduce to you His Excellency, Ambassador Andrew Ramjohn from the Federation of International Gender and Human Rights. Ambassador, you're welcome to unmute your mic. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Excellency. As always, it's such a pleasure listening to your introduction. Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that. I would like to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening to each and every one of you being here today. We are very pleased to be able to welcome another session of graduates, indeed. And to those of you who are already with us, welcome, welcome, welcome. And to those who are going to be joining the FIRE organization, I welcome you and I look forward to hearing you. I would like to thank Your Excellency, Dr. Amina Ali, for giving us all this wonderful opportunity to represent to the world our collective desires for a better humanity in whatever different category we have studied, qualified, and proved to be most passionate and vociferous about. I thank all dignitaries, emissaries, and all of the ambassadors of FIRE in attendance, all speakers, all participants and viewers from different parts of the world. Your Excellency, I wish to personally thank and introduce two very special individuals for being in attendance. Dr. Mayank Bats of Dubai, UAE, and Manvi Chowdhury of Switzerland, both of whom I've already introduced. I welcome and thank you, Ms. Fasha Rajkumar, Ms. Sophia Lau, and my brother Rick Ramjohn, who is viewing this ceremony and discussion today. Thanks so much. For today's forum, I wish to congratulate all the newest members who have joined the FIRE team. I'd like to say that you have been chosen to be a part of this organization due to a mutual passion for FIRE's vision and divine mission. Your passions will help us all to unite, and the energy we create is what allows us to achieve our individual as well as group goals. We need you as much as you need us, and that is why we are grateful to have you join us at FIRE. Over the next few months, you will be learning about the different initiatives through our planned activities, seminars, and special events where you will be able to join in and get hands-on experience. I pray that these will help you to grow to be more productive. As you go forward in your chosen SDGs, I want to advise you to always be passionate about your areas of concern. Believe me, that passion rubs off on many. Go forward with a plan of action and implement it, and do not rest until you achieve your goals or targets. So until later, when we will be hearing from you all again, I would like to move to my dissertation for this morning, which is titled Leaders and Their Accountability in Human Rights Work. In that, and towards that, I'd like to first identify what are human rights. Well, human rights are the rights that are inherent to all human beings, regardless of race, sex, nationality, ethnicity, language, religion, or other status. Everyone is entitled to these rights without discrimination. If we are to be the best we can be and counted among the greatest leaders, we must understand the following 10 human rights points before delving into accountability of leaders thereof. The first 10 I will look at, the first 10 human rights are the right to life. This right means that no one including individuals and the government, can kill you. Because it is the government's responsibility to protect human rights, they must create laws that safeguard human life and protect you if your life is in danger. The right to life is often invoked in discussions surrounding war, police brutality, capital punishment, and self-defense. My second of human rights is the right of freedom from torture and inhumane treatment. This right is one of the negative rights in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UDHR, which means freedom from something. It states that no one should be subject to torture or to cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment. This applies to medical scientific experimentation, meaning that no one should be subjected to it without consent. The UDHR specifically says that the government needs to protect people with disabilities because they are at increased risk for degrading treatment. I'd like to say thank you to President Chidiberi when he mentioned about the Pope's visit. I followed that a little bit, where I found his dissertation to be heartwarming. I don't know who else followed it, but I didn't hear an apology to the chief and his 8 delegates. I just wanted to say that. I had to say that. I am an advocate. My third point, the right to equal treatment before the law. The right to equal protection, which is present in documents like your country's constitution, means that individuals must be treated the same as others in similar conditions. Different treatment under the law based on things like race or gender violates a person's human rights. In the UDHR, equal protection is described in Article 7 as, and I quote, all are equal before the law and are entitled without any discrimination to equal protection from the law. Number 4, the right to privacy. There are over 150 national constitutions that include the right to privacy. It protects citizens from government or corporate overreach and surveillance. And this is important to note with what's going on in the world today, and this surveillance particularly, where they're actually doing the face recognition in England, for example, and there's a big hubbub about it. People are not in agreement with it at all. So we want to remember that in Article 12 of this same UDHR, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and is generally agreed to be the foundation of international human rights law, this right is described as freedom from arbitrary interference with your privacy, family, home, or correspondence, meaning email, meaning text messages, WhatsApp, what have you. The right to privacy frequently comes in discussions on advancements in technology, the power of intelligence agencies when dealing with terrorism, and data collection from organizations like Facebook and Google, etc. My 5th point on human rights is the right to asylum. This is a very old right that dates back to ancient times, actually. There is often a religious component. Churches were allowed to protect everyone, even criminals who sought refuge in a church or on church property. Today, the right to asylum protects people from fleeing their home countries because of persecution. It's listed in the UDHR, if you would follow, as well as in the 1951 Convention relating to the status of refugees. So you can look me up. There is number 6, the 6th point, the right to marry and have a family. The right states that everyone of full age, without any limitation due to race, nationality, or religion, has the right to get married and start a family. Both people in the marriage must also give their free and full consent. I say that and I think child marriages, or where children are promised to be married without their consent, and this is prevalent in many countries of the world. No one has the right to marry someone who doesn't consent. The right to marry is not an absolute right, which means that it's subject to national laws that make certain marriages, like marriage between close relatives, illegal. 7, the right to freedom of thought, religion, opinion, and expression. Everyone has the right to hold opinions, follow a religion, and change their beliefs. This applies to both individual practice or within a community. The right also protects a person's right to seek, receive, impart information and ideas through any media. In many countries, freedom of expression or freedom of speech is considered the most important right. What counts as protected speech is frequently debated. Number 8, the right to work. This right encompasses a large variety of work-related concerns. Everyone has the right to work, but they also have the right to favorable conditions and protection against unemployment. People must also receive equal pay for equal work, as well as the right to form and join trade unions. Equal pay for equal work, however, remains a big issue around the world and intersects with discrimination based upon gender and race. Number 9, the right to education. And this is my favorite, education. I love education. All human rights are interdependent, but many consider the right to education as a top priority for the world. The UDHR states that education must be free through elementary school. Later education, as well as technical and professional education, should be available and accessible. The United States, as an example, where student debt is a massive problem. You take loans to go to university. And then when you start to work, this is your first option to pay that debt, that loan you took. So it is a massive problem and has issues with the accessibility of its higher education system. Globally, women and girls still face significant barriers to their education. And number 10, it is my final point, but not the last. It is the right to social services. Now, social services ensure that everyone has a certain standard of living. In Article 25 in the UDHR, it is defined, the standard is defined as adequate for the well-being and health of an individual and their family. That includes clothing, housing, food, water, medical care, and security in case someone is unable to earn money due to illness, unemployment, etc. While universal health care does not appear in the UDHR, people use Article 25 to support this goal. So, once we are fully understanding of the aforementioned 10 points, let's now look at international human rights law. I must get into these things before I get into accountability and leaders. The international human rights law is extremely important to know as it lays down the obligations of governments to act in certain ways or to refrain from certain acts in order to promote and protect human rights and fundamental freedoms of individuals or groups. One of the great achievements of the United Nations is the creation of a comprehensive body of human rights law, a universal and internationally protected code to which all nations can subscribe and all people aspire. The United Nations has defined a broad range of internationally accepted rights, including civil, cultural, economic, political, and social rights. It has also established mechanisms to promote and to protect these rights and to assist states in carrying out their responsibilities. So now, let's go on to accountability. Accountability, first of all, let's explain what it is. Accountability occurs when individuals reliably deliver on their commitments, showing others they can be trusted to do what they say they'll do. Leaders further demonstrate accountability by taking responsibility for the outcome. The outcomes, of course, is based upon their actions and decisions and successfully transforming their efforts into results. Leaders at all levels of the organization can demonstrate accountability through their behavior and their quality of decision making. Leaders can set the performance standard others want to emulate. I would say it like this: let the quality of your work and decisions be the gold standard against which the performance of others comes to be measured. Let me say that again. Let the quality of your work and decisions be the gold standard against which the performance of others comes to be measured. Gold standard accountability is of such high quality that others see the best possible combination of behavior and judgment, compelling others to follow it. And that's what's important. You want others to follow it, you've got to have that gold standard. It consists of performance excellence and the mastery of the key skills and behaviors necessary for any job. Drawing on some of the insights from In Your Hands, here are, and I suggest, 5 ways to build gold standard accountability in leaders at every level of an organization. So, here are 5 ways that I offer to demonstrate leadership, accountability, and ensure it in others. Number 1, lead by example. When individuals demonstrate accountability through their actions, they are setting the pace for leadership and performance excellence. They're also showing others how to be accountable for doing what they say they'll do. Leaders can be pace setters and demonstrate accountability by exhibiting the following behaviors. Discipline, that is specifically staying on track and not getting derailed by competing priorities or desires. Integrity, that is being honest about the likelihood of delivering on commitments and apologizing when something goes wrong. A leader is not above an apology. Execution, which is mastering new skills and behaviors and striving to achieve executional excellence. Secondly, develop accountable leaders. Training in a specific skill and competency can help leaders understand what it means to be accountable and which behaviors help to demonstrate accountability. By building accountability into your leadership development program, leaders at all levels will learn how to deliver on commitments and then see the importance of being reliable and trustworthy in the eyes of others. Leadership development can also help managers learn how to set and communicate expectations and how to hold their direct reports accountable for the results they commit to. Thirdly, 3 of 5, communicate. Communicate and share information, just like we do here at our fire discussions and discourses. Demonstrating accountability and ensuring it in others also involves sharing information and knowledge that will help others know how to behave in certain scenarios. Individuals learn by watching others and practicing desired behaviors, but they also learn from the advice and guidance of others who are already achieving this gold standard accountability. For those who manage others, it is also important to communicate the importance of results so that effort does not get confused with outcomes. Number 4, build individual understanding. At the outset of any initiative or activity, it's important for individuals to understand the expectations, the resources and support that are available, and what they need to be accountable for their part. This helps to avoid the pitfall of overcommitting and under-delivering. Some of the tools that can help support individual understanding of the need to be accountable include mentoring and coaching. Help individuals see different behaviors that can help them demonstrate accountability. Multi-rater assessments show individuals how their own accountability or lack thereof impacts others. Team meetings provide an opportunity for regularly reviewing and discussing the progress of everyone's accountabilities and how they impact the team's goals and objectives. And lastly, number 5, require accountability. To ensure intention leads to actual results, ultimately, individuals need to understand the requirement to demonstrate accountability. For individuals who manage others, it's necessary to set clear expectations and then ensure there is agreement that a commitment is doable and the goal is obtainable. Lastly, leaders need to insist on the delivery of the committed goal. They can provide support by setting up regular checkpoints to review progress, to give timely feedbacks, and determine additional resources or support that may be needed. Individuals demonstrate accountability every day by delivering on commitments and showing in their behavior that they can be relied on to achieve results. When expectations are clear and individuals have the proper skills, knowledge, and resources to perform, they are more likely to show a greater level of accountability. With the help of leaders who model desired behaviors and leadership development and other training that teaches accountability, employees see the difference between effort and results and learn to deliver both. One of the most important tools that I believe is important in establishing effective accountability mechanisms for human rights violations is capacity building. I will explain that very briefly. You see, capacity building, okay, I believe knowledge has to be combined with capacity for implementation. Experience shows that inadequate capacity within domestic institutions is often a key factor that perpetuates impunity for the perpetrators of international crimes and gross violations of human rights. It is fundamental that all countries develop or refine their own capacity to investigate and prosecute gross violations of human rights. In many cases, this means setting up new and specialized institutions that can handle international crimes and gross human rights violations. Every perpetrator of an international crime, for every perpetrator, there are usually dozens, hundreds, if not thousands of victims. Do you see where I'm going with this? However, insufficient thought is often given to ensuring that victims' rights take a central place in any system of accountability for international crimes and gross violations of human rights. Successful accountability processes must recognize the centrality of victims in their special status in the design and implementation of such processes. Now, of course, having said that, we must also have to back that up is the political commitment, meaning capacity and knowledge on their own will not suffice where government lacks the political commitment to hold perpetrators of international crimes or gross human rights violations accountable. The type of volatile political situations that ensue after international crimes and gross human rights violations are committed often mean that national advocates for accountability runs serious political, if not physical, risks. It is therefore important that the international community equivocally support domestic accountability efforts. In conclusion, and I will close now, I hope I haven't overdone my time, but I'd just like to say this in closing, Excellency. Accountability for international crimes and gross human rights violations constitutes the central plank of the contemporary human rights agenda. Today, the question is no longer whether to ensure accountability, but when and how this is best achieved. Thank you so kindly, Excellency. Thank you to everyone participating and watching. Thank you for the opportunity to contribute my input. Thank you to everyone. And I appreciate your attendance. I appreciate your ears and your welcome support. God bless you all.
Thank Thank you, Your Excellency. I really appreciate that. Very insightful. I took some notes, as I always do when people speak, and I want to thank you. We're going to be imparting some of this, especially your accountability piece and the capacity building in a couple of our programs. I saw where we can add them in. So thank you so very much for that. I equally thank those that are in attendance still and are able to appreciate such wisdom that is being imparted. So thank you again. On behalf of the Federation of International Gender and Human Rights, it is my God-given thank you to him, the Almighty, to the greatness of what you have done to introduce the graduates for today. It has been an honor, and without further ado, we are just going to go straight into the naming and celebrating of the graduates that are here for us today. I want to introduce to you, first and foremost, Sophia Law from the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Madam Law, if you can unmute your mic and give us 2 seconds of a thank you or speak your voice into the goodness of today. Thank you so very much.
Good morning, Dr. Ali. Good morning, everyone who's attended. Good morning, dignitaries. I am so excited that I was a part of this program. It was really informative. I love the way that Dr. Ali teaches in the simplest form possible. I just want to say thank you so much for this opportunity. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Sophia. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much for adding the insight and the wisdom to the course and the collaboration with your comrades. I really appreciate your time. Thank you again. Next is Pinky Pathak. Now, this young lady from the Republic of India has been with us since, oh goodness, since the maternal care before COVID. So she's been with us for a few years, and it was so good to see her here again, also graduating from this course. And knowing that what she is going to be offering is going to continue with the greater things that she is doing in the community already. So without further ado, Pinky, can you unmute your mic? The floor is yours.
Good evening and good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Ma. Ma is what I address Dr. Amina Ali as, Ma meaning mother, which she is for each of us. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to all the seniors for blessing us with the guidance. I just seek for your blessings today so that I, along with all the graduating people, can contribute towards a greater cause. We are always trying to uplift others. So please bless us that this journey becomes a real success for us in real terms. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I appreciate your time and the effort that you give to the people of India. God bless you. Next is Hamida Ismail Ahmed from the Republic of Kenya. If you can unmute your mic and give us some words of love, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to all of you from different parts of the world. I am so excited to be here today with all of you. It's been a journey of roller coaster, but here we are, alhamdulillah. We've done this, and I'm hoping, I am so thankful to Dr. Amina Ali for being there for me every time and for all of us. And even when we let her down during this course, when we started, we let her down, but we apologized and she gave us a second chance. I still remember that. And thank you so much again. And I'm wishing to join another course, the third one now, inshallah. Thank you so much. All of you are welcome, my fellow graduates. Congratulations to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations again. Alhamdulillah. It is so good to see you and to know that you have finished. I don't think it was a disappointment. I think it was just a hiccup, and I like to see that as it was just a speed bump. So thank you so very much. And I look forward to seeing you in another course. Yes, please. Assalamu alaikum. Let me see. Hold on. It was supposed to be. Why is this not going to? Did you put them in the wrong order? Is everything okay? Okay. We have, I don't know, the computer just kind of went crazy there for a minute, so I apologize, but we have a glitch in this because she can't pull up the second half of it. And the next one would be Madam Varsha Rajkumar. She is our next graduate, and she is hailing from Trinidad and Tobago. And it's very unfortunate that this piece is not coming up. It's a glitch between the graduates and the last piece of this. So I apologize, Madam Rajkumar. If you can unmute your mic, and if you can come to camera, we can at least put your face up under the graduates. Thank you so much. You can unmute your mic. Yes, there you are. Thank you so much. The floor is yours.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone present. Well, this is my second course with FIRE, and it was a great, amazing journey. I've learned so much. Dr. Ali taught us so very well. She helped us understand that it's important to put ourselves first, understand us before we can be able to move forward to help do anything else. I want to thank His Excellency, Ambassador Andrew Ramjohn. He has been readily available, always there, always pushing us, always trying to help. Special thank you to him and to my friends, my family who are some are present here, and that's everything today. And I am so grateful for this opportunity. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Madam Rajkumar, and I'm so sorry about this glitch, but you are equally as important as everyone, and you definitely deserve that recognition. She is the captain of the last team, and she was team leader in the other fellowship that she was in, and I have to say that she has definitely been a great asset to both Trinidad and Tobago and the FIRE community with her insistence to be better each and every time. So thank you so much, Madam. Okay, we have, it's going back. Yeah, I keep saying going back, okay. Next is our honorable mention. We have a classmate here that was unable to finish with the group, but she started with the group, and because of an emergency, she wasn't able to finish, but I thought it was so impactful for her to speak and speak her voice and speak to who she is through this tragedy and congratulate her team as a whole. So Madam Naila Tasneen of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, can you please unmute your mic and speak to what has happened, if anything, very, very briefly, and let us know how you are and how you're feeling.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Amina Ali, and assalamu alaikum everyone at FIRE. Good morning, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for giving me this to all of you. And I want to congratulate everyone who's graduating today, all my fellows in the Human Rights Crisis Group. And yes, I'm doing very well. Thank you so much, Dr. Amina. I want to thank everyone at FIRE, including all those FIRE fellows and who have been praying for me and giving me their well wishes. Thank you so much for your love and support and your prayers. I'm doing very well. I'm doing much better, and I had my CT scans today, so I'm healing very fast, and I've healed very quickly, and I'm much better and out of danger. So thank you so much. I was part of this Human Rights in Crisis fellowship, and during the fellowship, you know, I faced a real-time human rights in crisis situation while protecting my own family from my family. So, but this is life. So I got injured through a firearm injury, but with God's grace, I was able to protect my family, protect my mother, protect my sister, and I gave them the medical aid, and I was able to provide all the emergency relief to my family. So I'm doing much better. I'm kind of displaced and figuring out things for myself. But my message for is that all of those people who work in areas of gender-based violence and in areas of human rights in crisis, you know, this does involve a lot of risk. And I don't mean to scare people, but all I want is for everyone to be prepared for any kind of situation, prepared in terms of knowing how to give first aid to people, whether it's a firearm injury, a snake bite, or fractures, or any kind of emergency situation. Please be prepared for that. Assess your risks. Be physically very fit, and learn about self-defense. I think the best way to help people who are in, dealing with any kind of risk is to give, some kind of work opportunity, a paid work opportunity to people who can, who are facing any risk or living in a hostile environment. So all of you musicians who support such victims or survivors, please try to give them sustainable way of supporting themselves by giving them work opportunities. So that's my message for everyone at FIRE. I want to congratulate everyone once again on, inshallah, hopefully, as soon as I'm able to, I would be joining all of you. So thank you so much, Dr. Amina Ali, and my best wishes and congratulations to all the graduates. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Naila, and thank you. And we wish you a speedy recovery and that you will be restored to full shifa, inshallah. Thank you so very much. Okay, we are at the end. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming. I equally want to thank each of the graduates for, again, their due diligence under FIRE and their service that they're going to be offering and submitting to once they have graduated. If each of you will check your emails as I'm speaking, you will see that each of your certificates have been given. We also gave our digital gifts to our dignitaries for the day. And I want to thank each of the parents, grandparents, family members, friends, and those dignitaries that are here today. I'd like to recognize a few of them. Dr. Marshall Williams and Dr. Rachel Hill has come on. Ambassador Carmen Schmidt, who is very, very near and dear to me. She is a woman that I emulate and try to emulate daily. Excuse me, Dr. Denise Johnson, Pastor Dr. Denise Johnson of Florida is here today. Thank you so very much. And we have Pastor Tammy Charles, who is here. And she has been in education for many, many years, and someone that I am very, very, very honored to have here today. So I want to thank you all for coming. Thank you all for being here. And in closing, if our dignitaries are still here, I'd like to have maybe about 60 seconds of words of wisdom and takeaways from His Excellency Archbishop Ogbu, if he is still with us. I am checking the stats. If he can come on and give us a few seconds of wisdom and things that he would like to share with the graduates upon our conclusion. Oh, you said we lost him. Okay. All right, thank you. We thank His Excellency for coming today, and on official record, we enjoyed the dissertation and the great effort that has been given to us. So thank you so very much, Your Excellency. We would ask for Ambassador Andrew Ramjohn to come on, unmute his mic, 60 seconds, words of wisdom and great givings to the graduates. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency. I'll just make it long, short and sweet. I'm short, I hope sweet, and I like to keep things that way. Excellency, look, I just want to go back to something I said earlier, and especially for the graduating members, you have studied, you've worked hard to achieve this goal. Your certificate should not be hung to gather dust or cobweb. It is not there as a decoration. It is there to represent who you become and by what you have learned. I would advise you not to sit on your laurels, as we were often told growing up. Use it for what FIRE stands for. Become advocates. There is so much going on in the world today. I don't even have to suggest. You choose what you feel comfortable in. Let it always be for the betterment of humanity. And as you go forward, as I've said, be passionate about what you choose. It will rub off, and you will find people approaching you, supporting you because of what you stand for, because you have now become a voice for their unheard voices. You now have the right and the authority to advocate for things that they may not be able to do so. So use what you've got, use it for humanity. This is why you're a part of FIRE. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. And I appreciate your words of wisdom and the continuation of what you give to those in Trinidad and Tobago and Carriacou. From all of us to all of you, I give our closing prayer. Father God, we come away right now understanding that you have just released into society advocates that will abide by the service, the mission, and the goodness that you have just entrusted into them. And I ask on the due diligence of all that you have allowed me to give, that they take this wisdom and empower and impart a great discipline of service, servitude, and benevolence onto this land, and allow more people to come and be relieved of suffering in their situation. This is my prayer, and I ask that you grant it to those that it will be imparted to. It is in your name we say, Amen. I thank you all for coming. I thank you all for being here, and I equally thank each of the graduates for the due diligence in the time that they spent. Thank you all again, and I welcome you to another graduation coming up in a few weeks, and the same time at the same station of goodness and giving. Congratulations, graduates, and we'll talk soon. Be well.